I am Renee, a 32-year-old contract lawyer at a prestigious firm in Boston. A year ago, I met Sophia, the only daughter of the family who owns the famous Harrison hotel chain. We fell deeply in love, and after 1 year of dating I proposed. She said yes. Everything seemed perfect until her parents invited me to their mansion for a private talk. They sat me down and placed a thick prenuptial agreement in front of me. If you are watching this video from your workplace, hit like and subscribe to see how I turned the tables when they forgot I am a lawyer. My legal career had been on a steady upward trajectory for years. I specialized in contract law at Martin Goldstein & Associates, one of the most respected firms in Boston. The hours were long, but the intellectual challenge and the satisfaction of protecting my clients made it worthwhile. I never expected my professional skills would become so personally valuable until I met Sophia. We crossed paths at a legal charity gala, where I was representing my firm, and she was there on behalf of her family foundation. Sophia Harrison walked into the room in a simple blue dress that somehow outshone all the designer gowns around her. She had warm brown eyes, a genuine smile, and carried herself with an understated confidence that immediately caught my attention. When we were introduced, I expected the polite small talk that these events demand, but instead found myself in a fascinating conversation about immigration reform. Sophia was knowledgeable, passionate, and refreshingly direct. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise for coffee the following week. Our early dates were slightly awkward as I became increasingly aware of the financial gap between us. I lived in a decent one-bedroom apartment in Cambridge. She owned a penthouse downtown. I worried about splurging on a $100 dinner. Her family had a wing named after them at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. "Does it bother you that I come from money?" she asked, during our third date addressing the elephant in the room. Sometimes I admitted, "I worry you might think I am not good enough." She reached across the table and took my hand. I grew up watching people pretend to like me because of my family name. "What I love about you, Renee, is that you see me for who I really am. The money is just noise." Those words eased my concerns, and over the next few months, we grew closer. I found myself falling for her intelligence, kindness, and the way she genuinely cared about others, despite her privileged upbringing. 3 months into our relationship, Sophia invited me to dinner at the Harrison family estate. Driving through the gates past the security booth and up the winding driveway to the colonial-style mansion, my stomach twisted with nerves. This was a different world. William Harrison, tall and silver-haired, greeted me with a firm handshake. He had the easy confidence of a man who had never worried about money. Eleanor Harrison was slim, elegant, and coolly appraising her smile, not quite reaching her eyes as she looked me over. "So Renee Sophia tells us you are an attorney," William said, as we settled in the dining room that could have fit my entire apartment. "Yes, sir. I specialize in contract law." Fascinating field. "Any interesting cases lately?" His interest seemed genuine, and throughout dinner we discussed legal precedents and business ethics. Eleanor asked polite questions about my family and background, but I could feel her evaluating every answer, every gesture. By the end of the evening, I thought it had gone well enough. William clapped me on the back as we said goodbye, and Eleanor offered a more genuine smile than her initial one. Sophia was beaming. "They liked you," she whispered as we left. Over the next 6 months, Sophia and I built a life together. We spent weekends exploring small towns along the New England coast. I taught her how to cook my grandmother's gumbo. She helped me upgrade my wardrobe with subtle suggestions and generous birthday gifts. We spent a magical week at her family cottage on Martha's Vineyard, where we talked about the future. After a year together, I knew Sophia was the one. I saved for 3 months to buy a diamond ring. It was not as large as what she was probably used to seeing on her friends' fingers, but it was the best I could afford without going into debt. I proposed at Angelo's, the small Italian restaurant where we had our first official date. When I dropped to one knee between the checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles, her eyes filled with tears. She said yes, before I even finished asking. That night was one of the happiest of my life. We talked about our future home potential honeymoon destinations, and even what we would name our children. Everything seemed perfect. The next day, Sophia called her parents to share our news. They invited us for dinner that weekend to celebrate. I expected champagne and congratulations. What I got was the first hint that things would not be as simple as I hoped. William was cordial, but reserved, asking pointed questions about my career plans and financial goals. Eleanor dominated the conversation with talk of a grand wedding, dismissing my suggestion of a smaller ceremony with a wave of her hand. "Darling, a Harrison wedding is a statement. We have a reputation to maintain," she told Sophia, not even looking in my direction. At one point, William mentioned Jason Palmer, apparently an ex-boyfriend of Sophia's. His father just made another $1 billion in that tech deal. Shame you two drifted apart, he said casually, his eyes flicking to me. As we were leaving, William put his hand on my shoulder. Renee, why not come by on Sunday afternoon, just us men? There are some things we should discuss. The drive home was quiet. I could tell Sophia was uncomfortable with her parents' behavior, but she tried to brush it off. They will come around, she said. They are just protective. I nodded, but a seed of doubt had been planted. I was beginning to see that marrying Sophia meant marrying into her family as well, and they might not be as accepting as she believed. That Sunday, I arrived at the Harrison estate with an uneasy feeling in my stomach. The housekeeper led me to William's study, a wood-paneled room with leather-bound books and hunting trophies on the walls. To my surprise, Eleanor was there too, sitting primly on a leather chair. William stood behind his massive desk, and next to him was a thin man in an expensive suit whom I did not recognize. Renee, this is Thomas Bradford, our family attorney, William said without preamble. No small talk, no offer of a drink. The atmosphere was immediately tense. Nice to meet you, I said, extending my hand. Bradford shook it limply, his expression professionally neutral. Please sit. William indicated a chair that seemed deliberately lower than the others in the room. I sat, trying not to show my discomfort. William cleared his throat. As you know, the Harrison family has significant assets. Hotels across 3 continents, real estate holdings, investment portfolios. Our net worth is substantial. What William is trying to say, Eleanor interjected, is that we need to protect what we have built. Bradford opened his briefcase and removed a thick document. He placed it on the desk and slid it toward me. This is a standard prenuptial agreement that we require anyone marrying into the family to sign. I blinked in surprise. Anyone? How many times has Sophia been engaged? Eleanor narrowed her eyes. That is not relevant. This is standard procedure for families of our standing. I did not touch the document. I see. And does Sophia know about this? She understands how these things work, William said dismissively. Bradford, please explain the key provisions. Bradford cleared his throat and began speaking in a practiced monotone. The agreement stipulates that in the event of a dissolution of marriage, you will have no claim to any Harrison family assets. This includes properties, business interests, investments, or inheritance that Sophia receives. I listened silently as he continued. If the marriage ends within 5 years, you receive no financial settlement whatsoever. After 5 years, you would receive a fixed sum of $200,000, regardless of the length of the marriage beyond that point. My jaw tightened. That was insultingly low given their wealth. All assets that Sophia inherits or currently owns remain her separate property. Any increase in value of those assets during the marriage also remains hers exclusively. Bradford flipped to another section. Regarding children, in the event of divorce, primary physical custody would be presumptively granted to Sophia, with you receiving standard visitation rights. I felt my face growing hot. They were not just protecting their money, they were already planning how to separate me from my hypothetical children. William leaned forward. We need to be direct here, Renee. You are a lawyer from a middle-class background, marrying into significant wealth. We would be irresponsible not to protect our daughter and our family legacy. Eleanor nodded. We have seen too many fortune hunters in our social circle. Men who marry for money and then leave with half of everything. Bradford gave me a condescending look. If you would like to have your own attorney review, this we understand. Though I am not sure if you can afford the caliber of counsel who typically handles these matters. William pushed the document closer to me. If you truly love Sophia, you will sign this without objection. This is non-negotiable for us. I need time to review this, I said, my voice tight with suppressed anger. Of course, William said. You have 3 days. If you are unwilling to sign, then perhaps you do not truly love our daughter enough to marry her. I took the document and left without another word, my mind reeling from what had just happened. The message was clear. They saw me as a gold digger, not as someone who genuinely loved their daughter. When I told Sophia what happened, her reaction was not what I expected. I know it feels harsh, but they are just trying to protect me, she said, not meeting my eyes. All my friends with family money have prenups. Did you know they were going to do this? I asked, a sinking feeling in my chest. She hesitated before answering. I knew they would want some kind of agreement. I did not know the details. And you did not think to warn me, to discuss it with me first as your partner. I did not want it to cause problems between us, she said quietly. Well, it is causing problems now, I said, my voice rising. Your parents basically called me a fortune hunter to my face. And these terms are beyond unfair. They are insulting. They will come around once they get to know you better, Sophia insisted. They have known me for months, and this agreement makes it clear they will never see me as an equal. They will always view me as someone beneath them who might steal their precious money. We argued for hours, our first major fight. I felt betrayed not just by her parents, but by Sophia herself. She was caught in the middle, but seemed to be siding with her family over me. I finally left her apartment angry and hurt, wondering if our relationship could survive this. 2 days later, Bradford emailed me the final version of the agreement. It was even worse than what he had outlined. They had added a clause, stating that I would waive any right to access or question Harrison family finances at any time. I would be marrying into the family, but kept in the dark about their financial dealings. As a contracts lawyer, I immediately spotted several problematic clauses that might not even be enforceable in Massachusetts. The agreement was overreaching, and possibly in violation of state law in several areas. But the legal problems were secondary to the personal insult. William called that evening. Bradford tells me you have not responded to his email. The deadline is tomorrow. I am still reviewing it, I said coldly. There is nothing to review. You either sign it or you do not. And if you do not, I will take that as confirmation of our concerns about your intentions toward our daughter. After he hung up, Sophia called crying. Please just sign it, Renee. For us. For our future. It does not matter what a piece of paper says. It matters to me, I said. It matters that your parents think so little of me. It matters that this agreement is designed to leave me with nothing, if anything happens to our marriage. It matters that they are already planning to take our future children from me, if we divorce. You are overreacting, she said between sobs. If you love me, you will sign it. I felt cornered, manipulated, and profoundly alone. The woman I loved was asking me to accept terms that devalued me as a partner. Her parents had made it clear they saw me as a potential threat rather than a future family member, and Bradford had deliberately ignored my legal expertise, treating me like someone too ignorant to understand what I was signing. That night was the lowest point. I sat alone in my apartment staring at the prenup on my laptop screen, feeling like everything I had believed about my relationship with Sophia had been a lie. I had never felt so hurt, or so disrespected in my entire life. After a nearly sleepless night, I woke up with clarity. If the Harrisons wanted to treat this like a legal battle, then I would respond accordingly. I was not some naive target they could bulldoze with intimidation tactics. I was a contracts attorney with 8 years of experience. This was literally my area of expertise. I spent the entire day carefully analyzing every clause of the prenuptial agreement, making detailed notes on problems overreach and potentially unenforceable provisions. I consulted discreetly with Sarah Jensen, a colleague who specialized in family law, without mentioning names. This is ridiculously one-sided, she said after reviewing my notes. No reasonable attorney would advise their client to sign this as is. Whoever drafted this is either incompetent or deliberately trying to create an unfair agreement. Armed with her input, I expanded my analysis. I also decided to do some research on the Harrison family business. If they were going to scrutinize me, I would return the favor. I hired a private investigator with a reputation for discretion, paying him a substantial sum from my savings. Within 2 days, he provided me with information about several questionable business practices in the Harrison hotel chain, including possible tax avoidance strategies and a pending discrimination lawsuit that had been kept out of the placket press. I also discovered that Bradford had lost a major case last year involving a prenuptial agreement that was thrown out for being unconscionably one-sided. This was valuable information. Using all this knowledge, I drafted a comprehensive counterproposal. My version protected the core Harrison family assets while providing for a more equitable distribution in case of divorce, particularly concerning assets acquired during the marriage. I included fair custody provisions and removed the invasive restrictions on my rights within the marriage. Then I requested a meeting with all parties, William Eleanor Bradford, and this time Sophia as well. I insisted that the meeting take place at a neutral location, a conference room. I booked at a downtown hotel, not owned by the Harrisons. When we gathered, William looked irritated. I thought we made it clear this was not a negotiation, Renee. Every contract is a negotiation, I replied calmly, setting my briefcase on the table, especially one as important as this. Bradford gave me a condescending smile. Have you had a chance to review our agreement? I have, I said, opening my briefcase. And I have several concerns about its legality and enforceability under Massachusetts law. His smile faltered slightly. I removed my annotated copy of their prenup and began methodically addressing each problematic clause, citing relevant statutes and case law. As I spoke, I maintained a professional tone, but I was direct and unwavering. Section 7.3 violates the Massachusetts Uniform Probate Code regarding spousal inheritance rights. DiMatteo v. DiMatteo established that prenuptial agreements cannot completely eliminate such rights without adequate consideration. Bradford shifted uncomfortably. William's expression changed, from dismissive to concerned. The custody provisions in Section 12 attempt to circumvent Massachusetts family law standards for determining the best interests of the child, which courts have repeatedly held cannot be predetermined by contract. See Roe v. Reed 2010. I continued through my list, watching as Bradford began taking notes and whispering to William. Eleanor's perfectly composed face showed cracks of uncertainty. When I finished my critique, I presented my counterproposal. This version protects the core Harrison family assets while still respecting my rights as an equal partner in this marriage. William scoffed. Why would we even consider this? I looked him directly in the eye. Because a court would likely find your version unconscionable and unenforceable, similar to Bradford's loss in Michaels v. Westbrook last year. Bradford's head snapped up. How did you know about that case? It is public record, I said smoothly. As are the pending discrimination claims against Harrison Hotels in Chicago, and the unusual property transfers through your shell company in the Cayman Islands. The room fell silent. William's face flushed red. Eleanor placed a restraining hand on his arm. Sophia, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What is he talking about, Dad? William ignored her, focusing on me. Are you threatening us? Not at all, I replied. I am simply demonstrating that I have done my due diligence just as you did with me. The difference is that I am still willing to work toward a fair agreement despite what I have learned. Bradford whispered urgently to William, who nodded grimly. We need to discuss this privately, William said. By all means, I replied. Sophia and I will wait outside. In the hallway, Sophia looked at me with new eyes. I had no idea. You could be so formidable. There is a reason I am good at my job, I said quietly. I just never thought I would need those skills to defend myself against my future family. After 20 minutes, Bradford called us back in. William's demeanor had changed completely. Renee, it seems we may have underestimated you, he said, his voice strained but respectful. Bradford advises that there is merit in your concerns about the agreement. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. I believe that would be wise, I agreed. My proposal protects your family wealth, while still treating me as a partner, worthy of respect, which is all I have ever wanted. Eleanor spoke up, surprising me. We may have been overzealous in our desire to protect Sophia. It was not personal. It felt very personal, I said honestly. But I am willing to move forward constructively if you are. William nodded stiffly. We will have Bradford review your proposal and respond within the week. As we prepared to leave, I addressed Sophia. This affects your future too. You should be part of these discussions from now on. She nodded, squeezing my hand with a mixture of apology and pride. Walking out of that meeting, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time since this ordeal began, I had regained my sense of agency and self-respect. I had stood up for myself using the very skills the Harrisons had dismissed and undervalued. The tables had turned. 2 weeks of intense negotiation followed. Bradford, now treating me as a peer rather than an obstacle, worked with us to create a balanced agreement that everyone could accept. The final document protected the Harrison family business and inheritance, while acknowledging my contributions to the marriage and ensuring fair treatment. The experience transformed my relationship with Sophia's parents in unexpected ways. William, though initially resentful, gradually developed a grudging respect for me. During one late negotiation session, he pulled me aside. You would have been a formidable opponent in court, he said. I am glad you are on our side now. Eleanor's change was more subtle. She began including me in family discussions, asking my opinion on legal matters affecting their business. She even invited me to help plan certain aspects of the wedding areas, where she had previously dismissed my input entirely. The most important healing, though, happened between Sophia and me. The night after we finally signed the revised agreement, we had a long, honest conversation. I am sorry I did not stand with you from the beginning, she said, tears in her eyes. I was caught between loyalty to my family and loyalty to you. I never thought they would be so harsh. And I am sorry I did not understand how difficult that position was for you, I replied. But we need to be partners in everything, especially when it comes to your family. I was proud of you today, she admitted. "I have never seen my father back down like that. You earned his respect." "I would rather have earned it without the conflict," I said. "But sometimes you have to fight to be treated fairly." Our wedding took place 6 months later. It was a compromise between the lavish event Eleanor had envisioned and the more intimate ceremony I preferred. Both families attended, initially keeping a careful distance from each other. The surprise came during William's toast. He stood glass in hand and looked directly at me. When Renee first asked for Sophia's hand, I saw only what he lacked. I was wrong. What matters is not a man's bank account, but his character, his integrity, his willingness to fight for what matters. He raised his glass higher. "Today I am proud to welcome him to our family." Eleanor's gesture came later, a small box handed to me privately. Inside was a pair of cufflinks that had belonged to her father. "For the next generation of the family," she said simply. Sophia beamed throughout the day, no longer torn between the two sides of her life. And my father himself, an attorney, struck up an unlikely friendship with William over whiskey and legal war stories. After the wedding, Sophia and I bought a home a comfortable distance from her parents' estate. It was mostly purchased with our combined savings, though the Harrisons contributed a generous but not overwhelming wedding gift toward it. My career advanced unexpectedly when the managing partner of my firm heard about how I had handled the prenuptial negotiations. "Anyone who can go toe-to-toe with Bradford and the Harrisons deserves a closer look," he told me before offering me a promotion. William even approached me about serving as an advisor on some of their hotel contracts, respecting my expertise rather than seeing me as beneath them. Sophia, inspired by the whole experience, launched her own foundation independent of her family's influence. "I need to build something that is truly mine," she explained. "Just like you fought to be valued for yourself." Looking back, I can see how the painful confrontation ultimately strengthened all of our relationships. The honest conflict cleared away pretenses and forced mutual respect that might have taken years to develop otherwise. The hardest part was working through the initial hurt. The way they had dismissed me, underestimated me, and tried to control me left deep wounds. For weeks after the final agreement, I still felt the sting of their initial assumptions about my character. Healing came gradually. William made a point of introducing me to his business associates as my son-in-law, the attorney who outsmarted even Bradford. Eleanor began calling me for advice about family matters, a clear sign of trust. Slowly, genuine warmth replaced the formal politeness of our early interactions. One evening, nearly a year after our wedding, William invited me to his study for a drink. After some small talk, he looked at me seriously. "I was wrong about you, Renee. I judged you based on what you did not have, instead of who you are. That was my mistake, and I am not a man who often admits mistakes." That acknowledgement meant more than any legal victory. The greatest lesson I learned through this experience is that respect must sometimes be earned through standing your ground. Had I simply signed their original agreement, they might never have seen me as an equal. By fighting back with dignity and skill, I changed how they perceived me and how I perceived myself. True strength is not about wealth or status, but about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. And sometimes the foundations of the strongest relationships are built through honest conflict rather than easy compromise. What would you do if someone underestimated your value? Would you walk away, or would you stand firm and show them exactly who you are? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to be reminded of their own worth. Thank you for listening. And remember, your true value can never be defined by someone else's perception of you.